Hello there and welcome back to the channel. First things first, I suppose I need to apologise, as it were. From the outset, we did say this was going to be a daily production. However, not to a TLDR of what happened yesterday. Our bedroom flooded. Something wrong with the windows. Some rain came in. It was a just bad day, so we had to sort of postpone what would be the daily show for this. So that's why we had to take a brief hiatus, even though we've only just started. But that was the reason why. So, but in a way, it's kind of good because it means now I can record this on the Tuesday, which means we've got the full array of NFL preseason games are in the books. Last night, the Washington Commanders beat the Baltimore Ravens, and that gives us a bit of a talking point. The Ravens had their 24 game. It would have been 25 if they won, but their preseason streak of it was 24-0. Was snapped by the Washington Commanders, and I don't care what anybody says. On the field, at least, it means nothing. You look at the fact that the Ravens, this streak goes back to 2016, haven't won a Super Bowl since then. Their last Super Bowl was the 2012 season. So the fact that it just kind of proves that whilst the preseason, I'm not saying it means nothing in the preseason, because obviously you can develop players and you can sort of work things out and what quirks your team has and what needs to be fixed. I'm not saying the preseason is totally irrelevant, but in terms of the results, it means nothing, because if this meant something, then 4-0, we're in a very good place, should have gone on and led to some sort of success when it hasn't. I don't even think, this is off the top of my head, I don't even think they've made the AFC Championship game since that point. No, I don't think they have. So again, just goes to show that's it. Again, on the field at least, it means nothing. I'm sure the Commanders players may have got a little bit of a boost from being the ones to end the streak and end the talk, as it were. And I'm sure the Commanders fans have got a little bit of something, because for those who may not know the geography of America, Baltimore and Washington are basically, in fact, Baltimore, they share the same state. Even though it's Washington DC, the fact that the stadium is in Maryland, as is Baltimore, Maryland. The fact they share the same state, that shows you how close they are. So there's bound to be a little bit of rivalry and banter between people who have neighbours who are fans of their team, whatever. So I'm sure for them it means something, but I don't care what anybody says in regards to what happens on the field. Result means nothing. So let's just pass on to that. Now, let's start off with what is the rundown for the thing. And I want to start off with one note. In fact, it's so important that I actually made a note of it on my coach's clipboard. And I can read it to you verbatim. Important to note, not all games were equal. And that can best be summed up with what's happened with the quarterbacks. And quarterbacks are going to be the theme of this episode. For the most part, there is one other, let me just check. Yeah, one other non-quarterback story that we're going to get into. But Patrick Mahomes, for instance, threw the most passes for the Chiefs in their game against the Arizona Cardinals. However, Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence, in the game between the Lions and the Jags, which is a game I tuned into a bit before I actually went to the Steelers-Bills game, they didn't even play. So whilst I mentioned last week, when talking about the Steelers game, because of the comments that, make sure my hair's done, because of the comments made by Tomlin and McDermott that this was going to be the game they were going to focus on their starters, that was sort of and the way that the schedule has worked out with how much they want to get rest and recovery in the next couple of days before the regular season starts. This seemed like the one that most of the stars will play. It wasn't the Steelers-Bills game. Obviously, it wasn't in that game. And again, I haven't been able to go through every single stat line and every single box score to know who the starters were and everything like that. So just the fact that those two games as prime examples show you that not all games are created equal in regards to importance of the players and the coaches. So let's start with that. However, on the subject of quarterbacks, we do need to start off with the Las Vegas Raiders and Aidan O'Connell, which it might seem like for the Raiders this is a battle between him and Brian Hoyer as to who's going to be the team's backup. However, given what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo, we know what he is like in the past and how injury prone he is. Last season he basically gave us Brock Purdy by the fact that he his injury left him out for the season. In comes Purdy. So the fact that he is injury prone, and the Raiders themselves even know this. If you go back to stories that were coming out through the off season, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but if he'd have got injured, I think it would have been that they could have cut him and not paid him a single penny because of how it worked. No signing bonus, no guaranteed money, no salary, whatever. If he got, it was with his foot, I believe. If a medical had come up and said, "Oh, there's a problem here," the Raiders had reason to get rid of him and not pay him. So the fact that they know that he's injury prone, I think that this battle isn't simply between Brian Hoyer and Aidan O'Connell to be the team's backup. I think it's possible that this is also a battle to be the team's starter at some stage, which obviously is what the backup quarterback can be. But with the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, it takes on a little bit more prominence and a little bit more importance, as it were. And just want to discuss what Aidan O'Connell has done, not just this weekend, but going back the previous week as well. So against the 49ers, 15 of 18 for 141 yards and 1 touchdown. And this weekend against the LA Rams, 11 of 18 for 163 and 2 touchdowns. I genuinely think that there is a chance that Aidan O'Connell, I'm not going to say is being groomed because it's far too early to sort of make a big prediction on that. But I think there is a legitimate chance that 2024 onwards, Aidan O'Connell is going to be the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, just because Brian Hoyer is 37, and whilst he has some experience with the Josh McDaniels system, having worked together in New England over the years, and whilst there are some quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are the most famous recent. Then you go back to Brett Favre, and there have been a couple, Ben Roethlisberger as well, who have played 37, 38, 39 when that never used to really be the given thing. The fact that quarterbacks are getting older, I don't think it really affects Brian Hoyer. He is still going to be the backup. So I think there is a legitimate chance for Aidan O'Connell to be the team's starting quarterback moving forward. Again, if Jimmy Garoppolo, it could very well be a sense of deja vu for him after what happened with, as I mentioned earlier, what happened with the 49ers. And then Brock Purdy comes in and does a Purdy, which I think is going to be a terminology moving forward around the NFL. If he comes in, I can see the Raiders moving on from him and just saying, no, I know we paid you all this money, but we just can't trust you. Aidan O'Connell is going to be the guy. So keep an eye out for the Raiders moving forward, not just in terms of this weekend when they play their next game, but also moving forward to when they release the depth chart and everything. If Aidan O'Connell is listed as number 2 quarterback, as QB2 on the depth chart, that's not nothing, I don't think. I think that is them possibly saying, if Jimmy Garoppolo does get out, we are looking for. I don't put them in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, for instance. Down the bottom of the down the bottom of the league. I think they're going to be a little bit too far away from that. I don't see them in those sweepstakes. But if Aidan O'Connell can produce something again moving forward and in practice and all that sort of stuff, I think there is a chance that he's going to be the Raiders starting quarterback 2024 onwards, especially if Jimmy Garoppolo can't stay healthy, which, as he's shown in the past, fix the hair again, should use stronger gel. As he's shown in the past, he can't really stay healthy. So I think there's a chance he's being molded to take over that role 2024 and beyond. Moving on to another starter. A different start, another quarterback who's come in this year, and that is Anthony Richardson, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. And this sort of comes back to the point that I made earlier. Not all games are the same. However, I do think it is slightly, I'm not going to say worrying, but baffling, I think is the best way to put it, that he didn't play at all this weekend gone. One of the main concerns about Anthony Richardson coming out of College of Florida was that he didn't play enough. You can look at his stats were also worrying as well. I think it was like 56% completion rate, and all the draw around him and all the talk about why he was saying so is there was the potential for him to be great because of his size, because of his arm strength, and he can make big plays. It just obviously didn't happen enough with 56% completion rate. But the other one was that he didn't play enough games, and we've seen that come about. One of the talks about Trey Lance, I was watching this on the Herd yesterday, is that Trey Lance didn't have enough of a resume, as it were, when it came when it came to college, because he was at a small school. Obviously, the COVID year affected, and he had like one showcase game, I think it was the best way to describe it, so that he could show, right, North Dakota State, we're not going to play this year, but we can't have Trey Lance not do anything for a year, so we need to have a game. That's all we're going to do. So he struggled. He didn't have a lot of reps, and it's sort of showing in San Francisco as well, the fact that he's still very young, still developing. And I think with Anthony Richardson, the fact that he didn't play a snap this weekend. And again, whilst, some teams may say, right, we're going to rest our starters ahead of the games and moving forward. For a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, with those doubts that surrounded him ahead of the draft, I think it was a bit weird. Even if you just gave him a series or 2 series, just something to help him get a little bit more used to the pace of the NFL and his, there's only so much work you can do with receivers and running backs in the offensive line in practices and joint practices and whatever. You have to do it in a game. And I just think it was incredibly weird move for them not to play him at all. When you consider that, again, as I mentioned, one of the big queries about him was the fact that he didn't play. You get better by playing. Why not give him... Again, I'm not saying have him out for the full 4 quarters and have him, at some point working with the 3rd and 4th string wide receivers against 3rd and 4th string defensive backs and whatever. For him not to play at all, I understand that it's a bit of a... And I believe it is a bit of a project with Anthony Richardson. Obviously, as I said, there's a lot of potential with him, and they expect him to grow, and a lot of people expect him to grow moving forward. But you have to start it properly at some point. And I think if you have announced him to be the starter now for week 1 of the regular season, you kind of have to treat him like a starter and give him, especially a young player, you have to give him the reps. We saw with CJ Stroud, had a bit of a struggle against the New England Patriots in his first game. Okay, let's take it back. Looked a little bit better and has looked a little bit better ever since then. So you need to play him. I expect him to get some playing time in the 3rd preseason game, but the fact that this is still missed reps effectively, and I just don't find it all that promising. If I was, whilst Colts fans might probably have sort of already written off the season, if I was a Colts fan, I probably would as well, just because I think you look at the AFC South. I don't think the Jaguars are taking the AFC South in my view, and I don't think they're good enough to sneak into a wild card spot anyway. So I think the season for them is over before it started. And again, this is sort of looking for the future, but it has to start at some point. I think it should have been now. Again, missed reps. I just don't totally understand it. Now to someone who is an established player in the NFL, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And I don't quite know how to say this. I'm sure everyone has seen the clip of him in his throw. Walking towards the sidelines, managing to keep his feet in bounds or whatever, and jumping and throwing it sidearm and everything. I get it, but it was an incomplete pass. And I don't know if this is this is something that I think happens to a lot of players and a lot of great players, that we just assume and we sort of are drawn into them, that even if it's a bad thing, we still laud them because of how it sort of worked out. Like if Anthony Richardson had played, for instance, and done the exact same things Patrick Mahomes working together, would everyone have said, "Oh, that's a great play," or would people have said, "What's he doing? Making a fool out of himself. Who's he trying to be? Patrick Mahomes with that sidearm diving pass or whatever?" No, they probably would have said, "Why is he doing that? No, let's look for stay in the pocket. Let's look for what the actual options are, or just throw it away. You don't want to hurt yourself." I think that probably would have been the reaction. So I don't get why Patrick Mahomes is getting this. It's the same sort of thing. You go back all those years, that sideways when he was pretty much in midair, passing the Super Bowl. I understand that it would have been seen as like one of the greatest throws of all time and everything if he'd have completed it. But he didn't complete it. So, I can't remember that play back in the Super Bowl. I have no idea if there was someone open I think he was trying to get into that side of the end zone. If there was someone open, 10 yards to his left or whatever, I just don't think we should get too fussed and hyped and everything over something that it was an incomplete pass. At the end of the day, it would have been just as much if he'd have got to the sideline and do what other quarterbacks do. Oh, there's nothing open. Rather than risk a sack, I'll just throw it away. Would have been the exact same thing. Would have ended up exactly the same on the stat sheet. So whilst again, I'm not gonna say it was nothing. I couldn't do what Patrick Mahomes did. See, I can't even hold on to a pen, let alone hold on to a football. So I'm not saying it wasn't a thing, and I don't know, maybe he's working on some stuff for the season. I just don't want this to be seen as like something that we look back on. I didn't watch SportsCenter or whatever, but I hope that didn't end up on SportsCenter's top 10 sort of thing and say, oh look, this play by Mahomes. I think we just all need to calm down on what was, again, not a completed play, as it were. So that's just that's my old man yells or cloud moment. There will be a lot of them moving forward, by the way. Just because, even though I am 31, I still consider myself to be something of an old man, just because of things. I'm getting a few grey hairs. Of course I'm old. Moving on to point 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, we had the Ravens thing, so let's call this 5. The quarterback competition in Tampa. Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield. This is a quarterback battle that I am genuinely fascinated by, because Baker Mayfield is still, again, going back to talk about Brian Hoyer, it's not as if he's old and over the hill. He's still young in the grand scheme of things when it comes to quarterback. So it's not. I don't necessarily see this as his last chance. That being said, if everything goes wrong in Tampa, I firmly have them in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, as it were. Again, I think much like the Colts, their season is over before it's begun. And I think if they're in position, they will be in position to take either Caleb Williams or Drake May or quarterback X who emerges and whatever, as there usually is in college football. I definitely see they are in the quarterback market in 2024, barring of course if Kyle Trask comes up and absolutely blitzes everyone away and they say, no, we're going to keep on to him for a while. But the quarterback competition in general, it's just a bit weird for me that there still isn't really. I still don't know what the Buccaneers' grand plan is in all of this. Like, I understand Kyle Trask again being groomed to be a potential starter one day. I just don't see why it was Baker Mayfield that came in as the veteran to come and do it. There were other options that Teddy Bridgewater, I think, would have been the perfect veteran quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go out and get. Someone who his days as a starter, Teddy Bridgewater, are definitely done, I think. Which is a bit of a shame because I really had high hopes for him when he was coming out. But injuries obviously plagued that. But Baker Mayfield it's still a battle between who is going to be the starter. I think that it should always be, especially in this situation, it should be an established starter and an established backup. That's why if you want to have Kyle Trask again groomed to be the starter and Teddy Bridgewater as the mentor, and you want to maybe start Bridgewater for the first game or two whilst you develop Trask and whatever, that's by all means fine. I just don't see why it was Baker Mayfield was the guy that came in for them, because again, Baker Mayfield is still capable of being a starter, and as a result, you are holding back Kyle Trask if you are going to trust Baker Mayfield, to be the starter for the rest of the for the majority of the season. So that is another one that I'm absolutely fascinated to keep an eye on and see how it develops moving forward. I think when push comes to shove, I can see Kyle Trask being the Tampa Bay starter by Thanksgiving. But again, if I just don't see how the transition has been meant to work for the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. I just think that should have been a more established veteran rather than someone who could still easily be a starter in this league. Now, Jonathan Taylor, we'll round up this point, moving away from the quarterbacks into Jonathan Taylor. The Colts have sort of made it clear that they are basically, I'm not going to say wash their hand, but they are basically willing and able and are okay with Jonathan Taylor moving on. If I was Jonathan Taylor, I'm not too sure how I would feel about this situation, because whilst the Colts have said they're okay with it, who is really going to want to try and grab Jonathan Taylor? We have seen the talk over this season, and it's been a thing for a couple of years, but the whole running back situation has sort of come to a head this offseason with the Ezekiel Elliott and the Dalvin Cook and a whole other bunch of quarterbacks, and the whole quarterbacks having their own meeting and stuff. Apologies, I do have an itchy nose. I do not know why. Probably a bit dry in here. But the whole running back value thing has sort of come to a head and is now very, very prominent in the NFL this offseason. I don't know who is going to want to trade for Jonathan. I saw a report earlier. I do not know the source. I can't remember off the top of my head. In fact, give me a second. I'm just going to pause this and I'll get back to you with it. Give me a second. There we go. We're back. Stephen Holder reported for ESPN saying that the Colts are looking for a first-round pick or a number of picks that would equate to a first-round pick. Given the talk that we've had about, I say we have had about running backs over the course of this offseason, I just don't see how there's any team out there that is going to want to trade a first-round pick for Jonathan Taylor. As talented as he is, but given all the talk and with a salary, with a contract rather, there's going to be that needs to be sorted out. I don't see how they're going to get a first round. I don't see how they're going to get a first round pick for him, or again, how many picks equates to a number one? Is it 2 2s, a 2 and a 3 and a 4? What the exact number is, again, only the Colts really know what they have in their valuation. But a first round pick on a running back, given how we have sort of said you don't really want to spend a first round pick on a running back. I'm just not sure that the Colts are going to get that. And whilst Jonathan Taylor may think, whilst it may be that, I might get out of Indianapolis. How to get out and in, a bit confused there. Whilst I might be getting out of Indianapolis, who really is going to want to give up that sort of capital with the knowledge that there is also a contract that needs to be sorted out along the line as well? I just don't see it happening. At least I don't see it happening right now. It may well be that this is going to have to be similar to Christian McCaffrey last year. That's the most prominent. I'm sure you can think of countless other examples. That's the most prominent in my mind. Might be the Christian McCaffrey as the trade deadline approaches, and the Colts are, again, in my view, what I think will be struggling. And there is that team. Say it's, I've seen a whole bunch of teams mentioned. I've seen the Dolphins mentioned because they were in the Dalvin Cook sweepstakes. Again, they're the ones that come to mind is the Miami Dolphins. I just don't see that being the automatic go-to, but there will be others. I don't know. Let's say Christian McCaffrey gets injured with the 49ers, or again, just off the top of my head, Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe last year was a bit of a flurry and a rookie surprise season, and he struggles this year, and the Chiefs are thinking, we need to get something. Or Joe Mixon with the Bengals. Or if it's going to have to take a team losing a starting running back, and then having to basically break the bank for it. That's a situation I can see playing out. I don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to be traded this summer, as it were. It's more than likely going to have to be in season. So for the time being, Jonathan Taylor really has to work out, what does he want to do with it? Does he want to hold out and wait for a trade to happen, or does he want to keep himself in game shape and actually play for the Colts? He's got a very big decision, because I don't think he's going to be out of Indianapolis quite yet. So I think it may take some time. Obviously, this news is just broken has just broken today. So who knows what tomorrow will bring, and indeed, who knows what tomorrow will bring on this show, because that is a wrap for today. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe. Links to various other social medias are down below. And other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow. You guys all take care.